In this lesson, I'm going to show you where the Object Manager and Property Inspector are both located and how to use these two very powerful and useful tools. To begin with, we'll go up to a job I prepared earlier, this sample job here. Okay, you'll see there's 4 pages in this job, and we'll scroll back to the beginning there like that. Now, to bring up the Object Manager and the Property Inspector, you simply go up to the top corner here and you click on this docker, and that opens up the Object Manager and the Property Inspector. And up here we can see all our objects, our objects in our pages, because our objects are actually in our pages, but we can see our pages. We know information about the job itself. Okay, and if we hover our mouse over it, tells us more information. We can see all our properties for each individual page and the objects within those pages up there. And we've got these tools up here which shows us or sets the presentation of these two tools. So, for example, if I click on this tool here, it'll only just show me my objects. If I go over here and I click on the properties, it just shows me my properties. Or I can see both, my objects and my properties. Now if I click on this node here, or select this node here, I can expand out and you can see all the objects on this page. There's a lot of objects on this page, guides, dimensions, and curves, etc. And I can also collapse that page down. So we can view what objects we have on each individual page. Now the thing is, we can actually use the Object Manager to do more than just look at what we've got. If I click on this object here, you'll see that it immediately pops down to it and it highlights it for me. Now I can actually set whether this object is visible or not visible. I can set whether it's cuttable or not cuttable. Now if it's not cuttable, for example, I've already cut this job out a few times and I've got a piece of yellow spare, I need to cut it out again, and because I've got a spare piece of this yellow, I don't need to recut it. I can say I don't want that cuttable, so when I click on the Cut File Manager and send that job to the Cut File Manager, it won't send that yellow piece there. The other thing I can do with this yellow piece is I can lock it into position. So when I click off it, I can't select it anymore. I can select what's underneath it, but I can't select it. Now the advantage of the property or the Object Manager is it actually lets you still select this object. As you can see, it's light grey here, and I click on that, I can still move it. And I can resize it and I can edit this object, but when I click off it, I can't click back on it anymore. I have to come back to the Object Manager and click on it. So you can sort of have your cake and eat it at the same time. So we'll put that back into position where it was, and I can also unlock it up here as well. Another thing I can do in the Object Manager, which is really quite good, is I can actually filter out what I'm looking at. I don't have to see all this information. I can actually filter it. So I don't have to show all the objects. I can close those and I can just see the guides and the dimensions, as you can see. Or I can just see the dimensions in my Object Manager here. So that's entirely up to me. I can also just show the current page. So at the moment I'll leave it on Show All. Okay, so that's all our objects in that particular job there. No problems. Now we'll go to page 2, and you can also navigate between pages from the Object Manager. The Object Manager also works with Z order, the above and below. So this circle, because it's the first item in the list, it's right at the back. This effects group here is right in the front. Now if I wanted to put that circle in front of this effects group, I can simply just click on it, drag it down, leave it like that, and there it is. It's now in the front. I could also, if I wanted to, move that circle to another page. By expanding that page out, I can put it anywhere in this page there. You can see it's moved. If I go to page 1, there's the circle in that Z order, in that position. I can click on it again, and I can scroll it down, and just hover my mouse just down here, and it goes to this page here. Page, what do we want here? We want page, oh gee, it's very fast, isn't it? Page 2, and we go there like that. And it's moved it from this page back to page 2. So we've now got our circle back to where it was. So these are the sorts of things you can do. You can move pages, move items around, change their Z order, view different things, and set how each of these items actually works in the program. Now, what is also very powerful with these tools is the Property Inspector. Most programs have got an Object Manager, and that's a very handy tool to have. But the Property Inspector really comes into its own in VinylMaster because you can do so much with it. I'll give you an example of that. If I go to, say, this job here, okay, I can select, say, this item here, which is just a rectangle in the background, and I can look at my properties for this job here, and I can go to shape, and I can actually change information here. I don't have to go up to all these tools up here. I can actually do it in my property inspector. So every item and object in a document, or every object that you've got in a document or in a page or wherever, you can actually edit it here in the property inspector. So I can, for example, make that a negative or a mitre. I can change these properties, settings, parameters, whatever, of any particular object through the property inspector. I can select this item here and I can go to its font and I can see what the font is. I can change its point size, for example. I can make it bigger. I can change things, for example, I could make it italic and so on. I can do those sorts of things from the property inspector. Great thing about that is that if I've got multiple things, for example, if I'm in text mode here and I click on, say, this text here, which is italicized with bold italic, I can go up to, say, this tool up here, find and replace fonts, and I can find and highlight the selected font style, and you can see how it selected both of those. Now if I had hundreds of these, in order for me to say, I don't know, turn italic off, I would have to go and individually select every single one of every instance of this and change it, but not with the property inspector. I can simply come here and I can say, well, I don't want it to be italic, and you can see they both change, or I want them to be red. And when I click off that, you can see that's exactly what it's done. So I can select multiple items across multiple pages and multiple multiple objects, and I can actually change their properties in one location, in one click. That's the advantage of the property inspector, is being able to do that. So I can go to any object and I can select that object and I can change information about it. I can change its size, its position, its rotation. I can look at its pure size, advanced. I've got advanced tools. I can set scales and all sorts of things which aren't available in the second row of tools or from the menus. These are a lot more advanced options in here, and I encourage you to come in here and have a look around and see the sorts of things you can change to objects, because in VinylMaster you really do have an enormous amount of control how to size, position and manipulate objects that just is not available in other programs. You just simply cannot do it, whereas in here you can. For example, I can adjust the opacity here, so I can make this object look see-through, as you can see. Okay, that's just an example. I can set a pen style. If I want to give it a pen, when it just jumps out here, I can give it a pen style. But I would obviously need to give it a thickness. And I can keep expanding these things out, and then you can see it come in now because I've given it a thickness now. So come in and have a look at these tools. You can also change the application. You can change it to, say, from inches to millimeters up here. You can change some of these settings and whether things are turned on and off. You can change things like smart nudge, your tolerances, what size grid you want, whether you want to see it as dots, and the type of guides. You can change the guide color. For example, at the moment it says blue color. If I change it to, say, red, you'll see the guides all change their color. So these are the advantages you've got with this particular tool. And if you experiment with it and look at it, you'll find that you can really adjust a lot of things using the property inspector. And that's it for this lesson.